guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, first time watching and joining us, then just welcome in general. Today we're going to get back on the Hurst Olds and try to resolve some of the rust issues that the car has. I'll be real honest with you, I have kind of lost ambition with this one. The more I look at it, the more I question how much time and money I should really dump into this. I never had any ambitions of doing a full restoration on it, but you know, just because of the condition of the car. If you've seen the other videos on it, then you're well aware that the condition of the car is poor, to say the least. But just I don't foresee being able to get the money back out of it ever if I spend it on it. So we're going to mess around with trying to replace some rocker panels and maybe the rear quarters, but I think we're going to stop short of, I mean, there's some rust deep in there that we'll address it, we'll treat it, we'll do, you know, what we can with it. If it needs a small patch, we'll throw a small patch in it, but this is not going to be any sort of a concourse restoration. To be honest with you, we're probably going to fix it up, enjoy it for a year or so, and it'll probably never make it to paint or anything. It'll end up in primer, and then it'll be flipped and turned into another project at some point. It's just, before I start dumping too much money into it and hacking it up too much, better to cut your losses on it, I think, and sell it to somebody who will or wants to make that sort of an investment in it. That person, not me. I do love the Hurst Olds cars, but I guess, you know, what I want is what everybody else wants, and that's a clean original one. So, or at least a better starting point, you know, if we're gonna be real honest. But it's a cool car in its own right. It just yeah, is what it is. So we'll get you turned around here and we'll kind of show you what we're dealing with, and then we're going to kind of just time lapse it. It'll be over the course of probably a couple weeks just to get it hacked apart to even start welding stuff new in. I have already started. I got the, if you look back here, I got the door taken off of it. Pretty sure we're going to have to get the front fender off as well. And then I think to get at the inner rocker panels, back behind the quarter here, I think the quarter has to be cut out to actually fully access that. But the quarter panels themselves that I got they're full quarter panels, but they aren't really full quarter panels. It's weird that there's a lip that kind of goes under the bottom side of it, and it doesn't have that lip. So, and that's the part that rusts out. Why would you make that and not have that on the replacement part if that's the part that goes bad? So we might have to kind of fabricable something with that, but it's going to be better than it was. But like I said before, not a concourse restoration here. Get it looking good, presentable when it runs down the road, and that's about it. I'd like to have the thing back together in time for the GBody Classic next year, and be able to go to that for once, but who knows? May not happen. I may have it back together and still may not go, just because I don't know that I could get the wife to get in the car and go to Ohio or wherever that is. So we'll kind of see. Anyway, turn you around, show you what we got, and then we'll time lapse it and move on from there. All right, like I said, I already got the door panels or the door, not the door panel, unbolted. Probably going to have to take the fender off here. I'm not sure exactly how they do the whole inner outer rocker panel on this, because if you look here, this is obviously the outer rocker panel, and then you have where it's welded together, but it's only one piece right here. That in theory should be, looking at the replacement panels here, that in theory should be the inner rocker panel back behind there. So I'm not sure how the inner attaches to the body back in here. There is some seam sealer in there. We'll chip away at that and see kind of how that's attached, but we might have to kind of cut it apart in pieces, dissect it, and figure out what they got going. There are some spot welds. This is your main structure here that, you know, goes up the front side of the door. There's some spot welds here and along here that have to be drilled out. Same with back here in this corner. We'll have to drill out a few spot welds here, a few of them along here, but then it blends right here. I'm not sure if this is actually part of this or if it was blended with some sort of a seam seal or filler deal, whatever, from the factory. We'll have to kind of figure that out. But I do know that back inside, and we have a portal to look through here, this right here looks a lot like this right here. So this will have to all come apart to get at that and put it all together and everything, which is fine because, like I said, we got rear quarters as well. However, when I held it up, they don't look like they're quite perfect with this edge here and the back edge by the tail light over there. So I was kind of thinking, rather than get into that, we'll just cut it up through here and then across, get rid of all the surface or the rust that's bubbling through and all that crap. Because up here it's fine. We don't need to get into this. Don't pay attention to that. That's just surface rust. But if we can cut it, you know, out here and come across with it, this is all good back here still. So just not get into the factory spot welds, I would prefer. What I was saying with the new quarters, if I remember correctly, I'll have to get them off the shelf, but I don't want them getting damaged right now. They come down and then they stop like right around in here. Well, originally this panel goes all the way down and then it's spot welded there. Well, this is what always rusts, so I don't know why that wouldn't be part of the new piece, but whatever. We might have to make, you know, a piece for down here or something and figure that all out. But we'll get into it. We'll start hacking at it and cutting it. I was going to bust out the plasma cutter and just start going at it and cutting chunks out. Unfortunately, with the amount of mouse material that I found in this thing, I don't know that hitting things with a plasma cutter is necessarily the best idea. We don't need to start any fires. So I don't know. I'll probably just start with drilling out some of the spot welds, seeing what comes loose, kind of go from there. Haven't done this before. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to learn. So guess we'll learn together. And time for time lapse. Hopefully the time lapse kind of caught most of what I was doing, but it's just drilling spot welds, so it's not that exciting. I'm not sure how far up we have to go in this with drilling them out. I'm pretty sure there's still one somewhere in this area, but I can't really see where it is, so not real positive where to drill that one. Back here, it was like Ray Charles was on the spot welder that day, and they're all over the place, no rhyme or reason. but we found most of them, I think. There's probably still one back in this corner right here. All of this along the sill here is loose, and I mean, you can actually take it and flex it. I don't know if that shows up on the camera there. I think I am going to grab the plasma and at least zip some of this off, so I'm working with smaller pieces and can kind of bend them a little bit. And I'm probably going to zip off. I'm not going to waste my time drilling out all these spot welds along the bottom, because those all get redone. That's just the inner and outer together, I hope, pretty sure. So I'm just going to take the plasma and I'm just going to torch all that off and all that off. So if I can get the outer out of the way, then I can see what's going on with the inner, and then we'll deal with that. But unfortunately, I got a gathering to go to tonight for a Christmas party for work, so I gotta get myself cleaned up. I will probably be back on this tomorrow. All right, guys, I forgot to hit record, but last night I went ahead and fired up the plasma cutter and went ahead and cut the outer rocker panel off, chopped off the bottom pinch weld there, and just kind of exposed this so I could see what was going on with it. Then went ahead and cut out the rusty front quarter there and exposed this so I could kind of see what was going on with it. And I think what we'll be able to do is, you can see some spot welds up in here for this. This is actually the outer part of the rocker panel, and then the inner is back behind it still. Well, what's left of it. But anyway, some spot welds up in there I think we can drill out. I've got this all drilled out and loose. Can't really see, but it's trying to not cut myself on the rusty metal, but she's good and loose. So I think once we get these spot welds done, I think there's a couple that I got to hit from around on the inside. Then I think we can kind of move down the whole thing, taking out the spot welds, and it should free it up from the actual floor pan, in theory. Still gonna have to pull off the front fender and all that stuff so I can get the forward area off. But thus far, I think this is doable without pulling the body off of the frame. You know, it's trying to really avoid that, especially now that I've got it all cut apart. But probably not going to go ahead and record this just because it's a whole bunch of beating it with seam splitters and all the spot welds. It gets real repetitive. If there's something that changes with that and there's something that needs to be addressed, I will go ahead and, of course, stop and fill you guys in on what I'm doing. You'll see all this tape that I've got on here. This is kind of where I'm thinking this is where I want to cut it to remove this quarter. Some guys were saying that just use the body line. I want to stay away from the body line because I don't want to damage the body line with welding, and I don't want to have to recreate it because that'll be real obvious. So basically it's about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches down from the body line, and we'll zip it off there. That way we can smooth her out and do all that stuff. Pretty sure I mentioned before, but the new skin that I got for this, I'm not real impressed with the edges of it. They seem very, I don't know what the word is for it, but they aren't nice and square like the originals are. And I really don't want to beat around on them and do the body work to make them look like they're square. So, and if they're not square, it makes me think that maybe they're not exactly true. So we're going to try to stay off of that and just use the majority of the skin, unless we get in here and find out something's really messed up. But that was just kind of me eyeballing it. It's all subject to change, but that's a future me problem. So I'm going to keep going with this rocker panel, inner and outer, see if I can get it out, and we're bring you back when I got that accomplished. All right, so it's a couple days later. I kind of progressed a little bit on this that I didn't record. Ran into some unexpected, well, nothing is unexpected as far as rust is concerned with this car. Some rust I didn't know was as bad as it was in the rear floorboard. Apparently, because this thing sat for like 12 years with the window cracked, and apparently all of the water kind of ran down below the rear quarter window there, so it was kind of not a good situation. So we had to put a patch in there. Ended up putting a patch back in the rear wheel well area. That wheel well is pretty rough as it is, so I didn't spend too much time making it pretty because it really should be just completely replaced. But it is what it is. Let me see if I can flip it around here and maybe get some shots here. We got hold on a second. I don't know why this, there we go. Sorry, camera issues here. We got the patch kind of put in the floor there. It's nothing pretty. All it is a flat piece with a 90 to go down so that it can be tied in down here. This little corner right here was rusty as well, so I just went ahead and threw a patch in there. It's bad up in there also, but I am not messing with that at this time. Obviously, I rebuilt the entire frame with some spray paint, so that's all pretty. And I got some Weld-through Primer on the edge here so it doesn't, you know, start doing any surface rusting while it's out in the garage here. As you can tell with the stocking cap, it is cold. It is like negative something or other. Don't even know what the temperature is, but my little electric space heaters can't keep up, so we've got the propane thing running, and if you've ever run propane, you know it introduces a lot of moisture into the air, so we don't need this, you know, rusting anymore. It is Christmas Eve, so I'm not going to be able to work on this too much, but hopefully when my daughter and her boyfriend get here, I can maybe enlist his help to give me a hand getting the hood off so I can get the fender off, and then we can work on getting the rest of this garbage all tore apart. And then we can start welding in the new stuff after we rebuild the front portion of the frame, of course. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. Again, when I get to something important, I will touch base back. All right, it is day after Christmas now instead of the day before. I did end up getting some help getting the hood taken off, got the fender taken off, was able to get the rest of the inner and outer quarter, our rockers, kind of taken apart up here. And obviously you can see the new rocker is kind of just setting in position. It's not quite where it needs to go, but it's close. I just wanted to eyeball it and see if we were in the ballpark with it. If you remember, I did on the quarter here, I left a piece from here down, but I couldn't get the rocker in with that piece in there. So we had to take it and lob it off. Not a big deal. We'll clean it up and do what we got to do with that. If you're doing these inner and outer rockers, they do fit pretty well, actually. Inner seems to fit really nice. The outer, I don't think it's too bad. It's going to need some massaging. You can tell that it's not quite in the right spot because there's an indentation right here, and this front edge of the indentation is supposed to kind of follow along with the back of your door edge. So right now I'm about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch too far forward with everything, and we've got some, you know, we've got a gap here that I can fit my finger in, and you can tell up front. I double checked it with the other side. This little notch right here is supposed to be about the start of this quarter, so this whole thing needs to kind of shift back. And there's a couple of things holding me up on that. I'm going to take this all back out and then take the Bandfile sander and kind of hit the back sides of these, because there's still some shrapnel and whatnot that's left on the back sides of that from drilling spot welds. That's kind of holding me up, getting stuff kind of, able to move in and out and slide where it needs to be, because it's snagging on everything. And just because these are not an OEM stamping or anything, they're aftermarket, so they aren't 100% perfect. Not that anything from the factory was perfect on these, but we got to massage the bends that are in this. I'm not sure if I can get a light in there so it's a little bit easier to see, but it's basically the top tab here where it kind of folds over needs to be kind of massaged back a little bit so that it's not so snug there, and then this can all slide back up tight with the rear wheel well. And this kind of needs to be massaged down here back, and I'm not sure if that's a stamping issue or a shipping issue where it got damaged, whatever. Whole thing kind of needs to be shimmied around and shifted. I'm going to do some fitting on it and then kind of figure out, I can't put them in together as one unit, both inner and outer. So we're going to have to put the inner in first. I'll have to, obviously take the outer off, fit the inner, mark out where I need to drill holes to plug weld, to kind of mimic the spot welds. And then once we get that piece in, fitted well, then we can come back with this outer, get it laid in there, massaged where we need it to be, and then we can also, go ahead and punch some holes and then kind of plug weld that in as well. Said it before, I'll say it again, I am not a welder, I am not a body man, but we're seeing what we can make happen with this. So I'm going to kind of tear it back apart, move along with it. I did get the front of the frame all rebuilt. You can see that's all nice and black, and it's like brand new now. So it's all good. And it is structurally fine as far as the frame is concerned. The frame's actually really nice on this car. It's about the only thing that's really nice on this car. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move forward with that, see what we got, and maybe we can make something out of this yet. I think when we're done with the rockers, we'll go ahead and start on the quarter rather than doing the rockers on the other side. That way we can kind of complete a side and then tear into the other side. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And again, as always, we'll touch base back when we got something else to show. All right, so it's like a week later now. Really hope to have more done with this by now, but yeah, over the Christmas weekend, I didn't think about the fact that the welding supply place was going to close early on Friday, so and I knew I was getting low on welding gas, and I've only got the one tank. That's mistake number one. I need to get a second tank so that I don't have an issue with that, but I just don't do that much welding. So I thought, yeah, I'll probably run out of gas for welding this weekend. Nope, didn't run out of gas. But I did run out of welding wire. Thought I had a whole nother roll. Oh well. So we are now the following weekend. It is New Year's Eve. But I was able to get some stuff done. Inner rocker is kind of plug welded in just along this edge here. And there's a couple like up inside and kind of up in this area here. But it's in. It flops around because, well, there's really not much that holds it. It gets its strength from the outer rocker. So that's what we're going to work on next. Like I said before, we do have to do a little bit of massaging with that to get that to fit a little bit better. So I'm going to work on that. I'll try to throw some time lapse in there, but there's not really much to see. I mean, you're going to be far enough away, you're not going to see me actually welding anything. So we'll get it kind of up in place and throw a few welds in there and see what happens with it. But that's probably going to be about all we get done in this video. We'll do the quarter panel in another video. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I'll throw a time lapse in here and hopefully some magic happens. I finished my coffee first though. I have a problem with getting coffee and coming out to the garage and then letting it sit, and then I go take a drink and it's nasty and cold. Anyway, yeah, we'll do that. All right, I figured I should probably bring you guys in so you understand what I'm talking about when I say that I've got some stuff to massage to get to fit. And I'm sorry about the lighting here, but back in this corner up there, it was the original piece. Like if this is straight, it was bent like, no, it was bent like that. So I had to take some of that out and then straighten it so that it lines up with this wheel tub a little bit better. Part of that is that I don't think it was, you know, it wasn't perfect. Could have been shipping issues or whatever. But part of it is also because I went ahead and cut out this corner and then tacked in a new piece to get rid of this rusty Swiss cheese that was in there. So it's probably not exactly the way it was from the factory, plus this piece is not quite right. Obviously, I have some sort of abortion of clamps to kind of hold it in place right now. Still needs to go up just a touch. And I think in order to achieve that, I think what we're going to do, this corner right here, and I can't really tell if the light's washing it out or if you can actually see that. But that corner right there is kind of holding it up from going up. We also have up here, this piece is running into the inner structure, so I think we're going to trim a little bit off of this top edge so that it can slip up a little bit further. And that should get us fitting in here a little bit better. My clamps are in the way, but the new piece doesn't fit up against this existing piece real well, so we're going to try to do some massaging of both pieces, the stock stuff and the aftermarket parts, and try to get it to raise up just a little bit. I could totally put it in the way it is and you'd probably never really notice it. It's not that far off, but it'll be easier if I spend the time and massage it in there a little bit better. It'll be easier for me to weld in. So the other issue, the front fits pretty good. We don't have any weird gaps up here, so that's all fitting pretty good. That should all be, again, it's kind of washed out here. Let's try that. Oh, whoa, really bright. Those will weld up real nice and easy. Probably going to do a little bit of massaging on the back side. On this piece back behind here so that we can get it to kind of move forward and be a little bit tighter in there for welding. Up in here too, we'll just kind of tap on it and see if we can get it to, you know, bend out a little bit so that it's tight up against there. And same with this tab that is on the front edge. This piece here curves back and then it curves in behind there, and we've got a pretty decent little gap there. The other thought that I had on it was maybe I could just take a self-tapping screw and run it into the piece and then be able to just pull it out tight against it, weld the other hole, and then I could pull the screw out and then plug weld this. So we might do that too. I think that's going to be the technique I'm going to use in the back here. I'm going to run some self-tappers in from the wheel well in to kind of pull the tabs that you have to weld to this inner wheel arch here. Pull them up tight against the arch. That way they can be welded. I have to go through, after I get this all fitting in there, I have to go through, punch a bunch of holes all along here, all along the bottom side, so that we have a way to actually weld the two pieces together. And I will probably pre-drill a couple of holes in the wheel arch and then run a screw in between them. Then I can weld either side of the screw, pull the screw out, plug weld it. Probably not the right way to do it. You can tell me that in the comments. That's fine. Let me know how you would have done it. This will hopefully all clamp back together a little bit better once we get stuff fitted in there. There is a little bit of a gap on the back side over here, and I may honestly actually use like a self-tapping screw from the inside. It's welded, but just for a little bit of extra strength, maybe run a few self-tappers through to kind of help draw everything together a little bit better. And nobody's ever going to see that. It's going to go into this area up in here, which when we get the quarter replaced, never be seen. Seam seal the crap out of everything and call it a day. So we will do a little bit more fitting, a little more prep work, a lot more spot welding, and it will hopefully be a beautiful thing. Well, okay, it won't really be a beautiful thing, but it'll be a thing when it's all done. All right, I went through and did a little bit more massaging. Ended up trimming out this corner of this piece just a little bit, and it really allowed it to raise up right where it needs to be. This is now a nice tight gap. That's what I was mainly going for. This clamp is just kind of actually holding it in place. It's not even really tight. It's just kind of holding it up there. Went through, and I don't know if they'll show up, but I went through and put marks. I don't know, I did it like every 3 inches, where I'll actually take and pop some holes in there and did the same thing along the bottom side. Front edge, I kind of massaged it a little bit, and we got it pretty close there. What I'll probably end up doing up here is I'll run a self-tapper into this one to kind of pull it out, and then same thing with right there, and then we can zap all that stuff in. But I'm going to go through, punch all the holes in this, and then I also marked kind of on the top edge of the inner rocker where I was putting holes in. I'll go ahead and clean the metal up on there, spritz the whole thing with some Weld-through Primer and all that good crap, and probably going to have to call it a day at that point, and we'll come back tomorrow and just start blasting this all in. I will say though, just having this thing tacked up sitting in place where it should be, makes a world of difference. It won't be perfect. Don't claim that it will be, but it'll be a lot better than it was. So, all right, I'm going to do that, and then we will probably just time-lapse the welding it in. Alright guys, real quick, here is our quote-unquote finished product. Went through, spot welded all of this stuff, top and bottom, and then just kind of took the die grinder here, this guy with a 36 grit roll lock on it, and just went through and kind of knocked them all down. They're not perfect because this stuff all gets covered up anyway. It's just basically enough to knock down enough to make sure that the wire piece, the little wireway cover thing, fits back over properly and all that good stuff, so that's good. These ones we'll spend a little bit more time on cleaning them up. There's a couple of spots I might add some welding wire in and then grind them down and try to hide these ones as best as possible, just because this is exposed still. Not going to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it, because even from the factory, this stuff was still visible. They didn't spend that much time on it. Not that we're trying to replicate it. We're not going for concourse restoration on this, which, I mean, let's face it, if we did concourse restoration, we wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on those because they looked like crap from the factory. So, but anyway, those back there, these ones up front that are going to be kind of exposed, we'll do something to kind of clean those up, and we can always touch them up with a little bit of filler too if we want to really make them pretty. But ones that are going to be back behind the fender here, I mean, this is as good as it's going to get on those. The ones along the bottom, once you slather everything with seam sealer and everything, those are, I mean, you're never making that look good. We will go, and I will put, before we do the quarter, we'll put seam sealer all up in here everywhere we can get at it, and get that all complete before we seal it back up. The inside along here where I had it all welded, all along the back side, all that stuff, that can all be seam sealed later. No real rush on that. So yeah, that's kind of what it turned out looking like. And yeah. All right, guys, we're going to kind of wrap up the video here. Trying to kind of shorten up and condense the videos a little bit more, hopefully. I don't know, they seem to get better views when they're not an hour plus long. So, which I understand, a lot of people don't have time to sit and just watch that stuff. And I have a tendency sometimes to get a little long-winded, in case you haven't noticed. But as always, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for the channel. That way you know when I got other videos coming up. Going to try to work on being a little bit more consistent with when I'm putting out content. The problem is that I don't have a problem going out and doing the work. It's the editing these videos. I hate doing it, and I'm not going to pay somebody else to do it. So you get what you get. But I'm going to try to get a little bit more consistent with that. As far as the panels that I used on this, all of these parts were ordered from GBodyParts.com. I've ordered other stuff from them. They've been great to deal with. I ended up, when I ordered it, for some reason or another, they ended up sending me like 2 pairs of inner rocker panels and then 1 pair of the outers. And I think they just, when they grabbed them off the shelf, they weren't paying attention, ended up getting extras. And I got a hold of them, said, hey, you sent me extra stuff. They were very appreciative, sent me a shipping label. I shipped stuff back to them, and when they get more shirts in stock, they're supposed to send me a shirt. But whether they do or not, doesn't matter. We're going to next thing that's going to happen on this is going to be this quarter panel. So hopefully that'll be the next video, at least the next video on this car. I have some other stuff that I still need to edit too, so something else might come out in between there. But again, as far as the parts, GBodyParts.com is where I got these. There are other places to get them as well. These complete inner and outer rockers actually fit very nice. So there's not a whole lot of struggle with getting them to fit in, because, you know, I'm not a body man. And if I'm saying they fit well, then they fit well, because I didn't have to screw around too much. Yeah, you're going to have to tweak stuff a little bit. But these are, I would say, equivalent to the thickness of, or the gauge of steel that they use from the factory. Some of the overlay ones I've heard are not as thick as the original, so they aren't going to hold up as well. So definitely recommend those, if I could speak. Again, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification button, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.